Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Believe, Be Real, Be Bold podcast. My name is Dave Glazer in Denver, Colorado, and I wanted to produce a follow-up podcast episode from last week's Why Letting Go of an Ex is So Hard. And today's episode, I wanted to bring my own Enneagram type 8, the Challenger, in as an example. So last week, if you tuned in, you heard me mention something called the Phantom X, and that's the perspective that we'll take and approach this conversation for the avoidant attachment. And we'll also talk about letting go for the anxious attachment and what that looks like through the lens of the Enneagram as well. So without further delay, let's jump into today's episode on how an Enneagram 8 can let go of an X. And the first thing that I want an Enneagram to do is they need to remind themselves of their own personal mantra, which is to let go, let God, because we are not in control of our lives. If we let go of all semblance of control or believing that we have control over the future, and we put it in God's hands or the universe's hands or the source's hands, then we actually take a lot of that pressure off of ourselves and we are enabled to be our more authentic self. And so that's step number one for the Enneagram type 8. And that gets hard when you throw an avoidant attachment style on top of that. So last week we talked about what it looks like for the avoidant attachment style to hold on to an X, and we talked about the Phantom X. And step number one to letting go as an avoidant is to acknowledge that there is a Phantom X in your life, that one person that you just can't get out of your mind, that you just can't get over. And the first step for us is always awareness. Maybe you're in a brand new relationship and you're like, I can't go all in with this new partner because I can't let go of my ex. This is what we're talking about. These are the 4 or 5 things that I want you guys to make note of in order to let go of that Phantom X. So step one is to become aware of them and how they are holding you back in this next relationship. Step number 2 is make a list. Make a list of the things why that relationship ends, because we don't want to continuously play the highlight reel in our minds, because that only allows us to hold on to that X for even longer. What we understand about the avoidant attachment style is that when enough time goes by after the breakup, we start to forget about the things that caused the breakup in the first place. And that's why we want to encourage you to make a list. We're not making a pros and cons list, just the one half of the list that's going to remind us of why our needs weren't being met in the relationship. And if we look at it through the lens of the Enneagram, we can identify where we felt the betrayal come up in our relationship. Okay, was there another person involved? Were there multiple other people involved? Is that why the relationship ended? Are you holding on to shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and this victim mindset keeps coming up so that you're not able to lean in and go all in with the next partnership that might be the perfect fit for you? The third thing I want you guys to acknowledge about being an avoidant and holding on to your ex is take time for yourself. Take time for yourself after the breakup, because we need to go through certain phases of a breakup as well. One of those things, if you're the person who did the breaking up with the other person because you felt like they were too much for you, maybe they were anxiously attached and they were coming on too strong, which causes this push-pull, chase and chaser dynamic between the two types. I want you to take time for yourself after. We need to heal those wounds. We need to heal the sense of betrayal and possessiveness and controlling. That's a lot of the language that the Enneagram type 8 holds on to with the Phantom X is, well, I possibly could forget that they were coming on too strong, being controlling, being possessive and manipulative in our relationship, and that's why it ended. So taking time to oneself and not getting into a new relationship right away is going to be a really good thing for the avoidant attachment style, because it causes us to look in the mirror, identify those things that we can take ownership over and what the other person is supposed to take ownership over that caused the relationship to end in the first place. And then finally, for the avoidant attachment style, and the Enneagram 8 is to lean into a new relationship to break the pattern. And going back to the last tip, we're not getting into a new relationship to distract ourselves or to forget about the last partnership. We're taking enough time off between relationships so that we can heal that wound of the relationship, so that when we get into a new relationship, we can lean in without carrying that betrayal, controlling nature, and possessiveness into a new relationship, because this person is kind of like a clean slate for us. We can get curious, we can investigate into what the possibility of this new relationship is all about. And you won't be able to accomplish that if you don't lean in. So let go, let God as the Enneagram 8 and avoidant attachment style, so that you can lean into a new partnership and see the possibility and see that not everyone is alike, and that we're not going to prejudge the next partnership based on the one that we just ended. So that kind of describes the combination of the Enneagram type 8 and the avoidant attachment, and how to let go of the Phantom X. But Dave, what if we're an anxious attached? And I referenced this in the last episode of like, my fearful attachment, my fearful avoidant attachment style gives me a unique perspective to speak from both sides, because I've experienced what an avoidant and an anxiously attached person goes through depending on the polarity of my partner at the time. So in the past, I've felt anxiously attached. In the past, I felt avoidantly attached, and that all depends on how my partner's energy and polarity is coming to me. That's why I describe it as like a pendulum swinging back and forth, because some days I'll be avoidant, some days I'll be anxious, and sometimes I'll be very securely attached in my partnerships. And that's where I feel at my most integrated, and that's where I feel at my most optimally healthy version. So let's discuss the Enneagram 8 and the anxious attachment style in the context of letting go of an X. So as an 8, I love to be all in on everything. And when you couple an anxious attachment style with an Enneagram 8, then the all-inness is even intensified that much further. So I need to ask myself, if I was anxiously attached in my last relationship as an Enneagram 8, I have to ask myself, was this person able to meet my needs in the relationship? And that's also rewriting the story, so we're not replaying the highlight reel of the relationship, because that's the tendency of the anxiously attached, is to cling on and grip so tightly to all the positives and start to make excuses for the negative behavior that attributed to the relationship ending in the first place. So we need to remind ourselves of those negative attributes in the relationship by asking ourselves, was this person able to meet my needs at all? And if the answer is no, then we can come back to that mantra of let it go, let God, it's in his hands. He can take care of me from here on out. And in my next partnership, he'll take care of me then too. If that person wasn't able to meet your needs in the last relationship, then the anxiously attached person can take ownership. Did I ask for my needs to be met? Because oftentimes that anxiously attached person has a tendency to let their needs slide so that they put their partner's needs first. And that's where the feeling of this person being too much for your new partner comes from, is like, oh, what do you need? What are your needs in this relationship? I'm going to put you first, and I'm going to always come to your place when asked. I'm always going to go see your friends instead of my own friends. And having that individuality in the relationship is such a good thing for the anxiously attached person to remind themselves of. Is like, how do I stay an individual while still loving my partner and meeting their needs, but also asking for my own? So the first thing, ask, was this person able to meet my needs? The second thing, how can I take ownership? Was I asking for my needs to be met in a clear and concise and non-threatening manner? And then finally, if you're anxiously attached, an Enneagram 8 like me, and you're having a hard time getting over your ex, the third best thing for you to do is to self-soothe. After the breakup, take time for yourself. That's going to be across the board, guys. No matter what attachment style, no matter what Enneagram type you have, take some time after the relationship, but especially for the anxiously attached. We cannot go from one relationship to the next and keep putting the next relationship on our wounds as a Band-Aid, because we will bleed on people who didn't cut us. So after the breakup, how you begin to self-soothe is to find some of those old hobbies and passions that you gave up in the relationship and tune back into them. Put yourself first for a little while. An additional part of self-soothing, taking care of yourself first, is to work on an acronym I like to call PIES. We're going to talk about physical attractiveness, so getting back to working out and eating right. We're going to talk about intellectual attractiveness. Okay, what were my passions and hobbies before I entered in this relationship that made me attractive to my partner back then? I'm going to dive back into those passions and hobbies and improve my intellectual attractiveness to myself first, so that I can become the truest, authentic version of myself for the next partnership down the road. The E stands for emotional attractiveness. Do I need to speak to somebody? Do I need some outside eyes on my life? Do I need to seek out support from family and friends and a group of like-minded people that think like me, so that I can improve my emotional attractiveness? What is emotionally attractive? Each and every one of us have emotional baggage. What are we doing about it in order to feel attractive, be attractive to ourselves, think in terms of self-love and self-care, so that when we enter into a relationship, being my sovereign self comes from these 4 areas of attractiveness. So if we're focusing on our physical, our intellectual, our emotional, and then the S stands for spiritual attractiveness. Okay, what is my life's purpose? What did I have that was purposeful in my life before I met my last partner? And when I get grounded with my spiritual purpose in this life, it could be done through work, it could be done through family, it could be done through volunteering, it could be done through a podcast. If you've ever wanted to host a podcast, I guarantee you that that's going to ground you in your spiritual attractiveness. Not because your listeners are going to find you attractive, but because you're pouring yourself into something that's so valuable in your life. And if you're an anxiously attached Enneagram type 8, like I've experienced in the past, this is how I've been able to recover from a breakup and let go of my ex that I just can't seem to get over. If you're interested in joining a group for support, whether you've gone through a breakup recently or you're looking to call in your ideal relationship and manifest your ideal partner, this group is for you. Head on over to our Instagram account at Believe, Be Real, Be Bold. And in the link in the bio, there's a way that you can apply. You'll get your first week free. And each and every week comes with 2 lessons that help guide you towards that ideal relationship and partner that you've always been seeking. So don't hesitate if you're looking for a group to support you through the Enneagram, attachment styles, and love languages. Join us every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Click the bio in our Instagram link and sign up for a free week trial now. Again, this is Dave Glazer in Denver, Colorado. Until next week, guys, talk to you soon.